Adding buttons to your forms brings in another level of interactivity. The button wizard will help us attach the act of pressing a button to a specific action or result that we want to take place. Let's add a few buttons to our training department form. I can open it right into Design View by right-clicking and saying Design View. Up on my Controls group here, I can choose the Button button. That's this one here with the X's in it. I'll click it once to grab one, and I'll come down here into my form, and I'll click to add a button. The Command Button wizard starts up and gives us lots of options for things that we can do when we press this button. We have a category here called Record Navigation. On the right is a list of actions that are in that category. For instance, we can find the next record, or go to the first or last record. The Record Operations category has things like adding records, deleting records, or printing records. We have form operations here. We can close or open a form, or we can print a form. Report operations will email a report, or open a report, or send a report to a file. The application category will allow you to quit access altogether, and the miscellaneous category will allow you to run macros or queries. Let's add a few buttons onto this form. First, I'm going to go to Record Operations, and I'm going to choose Add a New Record. We'll go ahead and say Next. Access then needs to know how we want our button to look. Do we want to include a picture on the button, or do we want text? I like the text option because it allows me to be more specific about what happens when I press the button. So instead of just Add Record, I'm going to change this to Add Employee. Go ahead and say Next. We can give it a name if we'd like, but I'll just accept the default here and say Finish. And the button updates here on our form. Let's add a couple more buttons. I'll go back up to the controls and grab a new button, and I'll drop it into my form. This time we're going to choose Record Operations, Print Record. Go ahead and say Next. And the text for this one is going to be Print Employees Details. Go ahead and say Finish, and that button gets added to our form. Let's do one more button. I'll grab another one. I'll click down here to add. This time I'm going to go to Form Operations, and I'm going to say Close Form. Go ahead and say Next, and the text for this button is going to say Close Data Entry Form. Go ahead and say Next, and then Finish. That adds this button as well. Okay, we can style our buttons a little bit by going up to the Format tab, and for instance, I've got the Close Data Entry Form button selected. I want to make that one called out, so I'm going to go up to Quick Styles and change it to an orange color here, maybe this moderate effect one. That'll make it orange and stand out. I can also change its shape if I'd like, from this one to maybe a square button. If I wanted, I also have Shape Fill options here, where I can change the fill color. I can change its outline, color, and down here its thickness. I can also add special effects, such as shadows and glows and beveled edges. I'm going to leave all of those as the defaults. Let's go ahead and move this button down to the form. I'll just scroll down, and I'll move this down to the bottom corner. Then I'll scroll back up, and I'll move these buttons up towards the top, and I'll line them up. I'll go ahead and make the Add Employee button a little bit wider so that it matches the Print Employees Details button's width. That's looking pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and switch back into Form View here. Now we can go through and save our form, and I'll try them out. The Add Employee button will do the same thing as if we had gone all the way down to the bottom here and press this new blank record button. If I want to add an employee, I simply press this button. I can print an employee's details by pressing this button here, and the print dialog box opens. I'll go ahead and press cancel. And finally, when I'm done with the form, I can close this data entry form right here with a very explicit button on the form. People love pressing buttons. They're instantly familiar and they can be really intuitive to use. Using the text option to be explicit about what the button will do when clicked helps users feel comfortable using your database. The wizard gave us a few options of the types of things that our buttons can do. However, later when we create our own macros, we can come back and attach those to the buttons as well for even more functionality options.